I know you say you're ready to change, but I need to get it.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing, end them. To die, to sleep, no more. And by sleep to say we end the heartache, and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoted to be wished. To die, to sleep perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death what dreams may come true, when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of despised love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, the spurns that patient merit of unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with the bare bodkin. Who would fathers bear to grunt and sweat under unworthy life? But that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country, from whose bourne no traveller returns, puzzles the will, and makes us rather bear those ills we have and fly to others that we know not of. Thus conscience does make coward of us all, and thus the native hue of resolution is sickled over with a pale cast of thought, and enterprises of great pitch and moment, with disregard, the currents turn away, and lose the name of action. Soft you now, the fair Ophelia, nymph in thy horizons, be all my sins remembered.
One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Like me when I first read this, you might be sitting there thinking, what the just happened? Well, I'm gonna explain it to you. After some extensive research, this just doesn't make any sense. What are the monkeys even for? I categorize this into 3 things. Face value, a little bit deeper, more deeper. Now, the first thing I'm gonna do is talk about the main message. Hamlet's main message in the soliloquy was he was considering whether or not to commit suicide, you know. But that's not all that's happening here. It's obviously about suicide. To be or not to be. Whether to live or not to live. But another thing that he goes through in this is whether it's better to be stoically passive or heroically active. That rhymes. He talks about the arduous troubles of life. That sea of troubles, to take arms against a sea of troubles. And this makes him question whether life is worth living or not. His end conclusion is that people's uncertainty about death, about the afterlife, is what keeps people going. It's what makes them go through all the troubles of life without killing themselves. Basically, Hamlet's saying that if everyone knew what was going to happen, they'd probably all just commit suicide. And Hamlet's curiosity about the uncertainty of death and afterlife is what brings us deeper into the soliloquy. Now keep in mind, this isn't the first time that Hamlet talked about suicide. Act 1, Scene 2. Or that the everlasting had not fixed his cannon against self-slaughter. Oh God, oh God. It sounds a lot like suicide talk to me. The difference between this soliloquy and anything else Hamlet says is that he subconsciously talks about suicide. He never uses the word I, me, or us, and he never directly deals with suicide, but rather he poses a philosophical debate. Now normally this wouldn't be weird, but the thing about this is he's talking to himself. If I was going to talk about suicide by myself, I'd probably be more direct with it. I just don't want to live anymore. The Patriots lost. Patriots suck. Hate the Patriots. I should just die. Now the funny thing about this is that Shakespeare is able to give a fictional character a subconscious mind. Deeper. Deeper. This is interesting because it shows how Shakespeare can develop his characters very well. He never directly says, I'm going to commit suicide. The reader knows he's talking about suicide even though he never directly says he's going to commit suicide. The reader knows he's talking about suicide given the circumstances of the play. Someone who didn't know the play or just read the soliloquy at face value without having any pretext could take this soliloquy very differently. This opens the interpretation of this soliloquy to a lot of debate. Now, the motif that's present in this soliloquy is sleep and death. Shakespeare liked to tiptoe on the line of sleep and death. To sleep, perchance to dream, yada yada yada, all that good stuff. Hamlet says a lot about sleep and death, how people endure life because they're afraid of what happens in the afterlife, and he kind of uses sleep as a way to express death. What dreams may come, what happens in the afterlife. Come on, this is simple stuff, guys. Shakespeare's really clever because he uses sleep as a segue into the death and the afterlife. But this is one of the reasons people put up philosophical debate, because you never know if he's actually talking about death because he never says death. Shakespeare's language in the soliloquy leaves it open for debate, which makes this soliloquy one of the best in the history of English literature. Did Shakespeare just blow your mind? Another thing that Hamlet talks about is the motif of action and consequence. If he kills Claudius, this may inevitably lead to his own death. Now, if he doesn't kill Claudius and chooses to kill himself, there could be consequences in the afterlife. I could go on forever talking about the soliloquy, but I have a lot of Temple Run to play. Hope this helped you out. Next time you read Shakespeare, remember, I'll see you on the big screen.